And welcome to the Deuce Podcast. I'm Brad.
And I'm Jeremy.
Jeremy, we're doing episode 130. 130. We were having a hard time trying to think of a movie for this. We haven't done a movie in a while. We've just, like we always say, life gets in the way of things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we were trying to think of what was in the movie theaters.
Yeah, and after some really extensive reaching here, we
right.
were really trying. Like, there was some really tenuous stuff.
Yeah. And the Elizabeth Moss movie, The Invisible Man, came out, a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
And so we decided, let's do Hollow Man 2, because that's about an invisible man.
It is about
an invisible man. In fact, they do have references to the Invisible Man in this movie, at least the original.
Yes.
Or at least the book.
Yeah.
From H.G. Wells. So, without further ado, here is Hollow Man 2. Hollow Man 2. Hollow Man 2 was a 2006 direct-to-video?
Direct-to-video.
Sequel to, of course, the Kevin Bacon classic Hollow Man. The, you would say, Shoe-Bacon collaboration. The Elizabeth Shue.
She was in that.
Kevin Bacon collaboration.
You never saw that one, did you?
I never saw it, but I know who's in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it was, so I will say, I saw it when I was younger.
Yeah.
I did not care for it.
Also, what's his face from Felicity? Is in it.
Who?
Sean. From Felicity.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Greg Grunberg.
Okay, Greg Grunberg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in it.
Also, what's his name? Josh Brolin is
Josh Brolin is in it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. Yeah, I've seen bits and pieces of it. Yeah.
I did not think it was a good movie. I'd have to watch it again, but like I just was...
There's like two movies that came out like around that time, right? Like maybe a year before that or a year after that was of Kevin Bacon was what was that? What, Stigmata? Is that what it is?
Was he in Stigmata?
Yeah, I swear he was.
Yeah. And
that's Stir of Echoes.
Stir of Echoes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know. I get all these confused. There was a weird time back in like after 9/11 where all these movies just kind of run together.
Yeah.
And I don't really know the differences between some of these movies.
Yeah, a lot of them were...
They all look the same. They all sound the same.
Everything had this everything had this like kind of...
blue tint to it.
Yeah, but they were trying to be like grim, dark, edgy, and it was just I just didn't feel... A lot of the times I was like, oh my God, okay. And there's some gems out of those, but like stuff that was a little bit different. But like this, I was just like, okay. The original one, I will tell you where the original one for me, what I thought was good about it was there was a lot of cutting edge kind of like visual stuff.
Right.
The things that they, it was like using familiar technology, stuff with like green screen and like starting to blend in CGI with a lot of it. And so you got a lot of cool, like, you can see, he's invisible and covered with stuff, or like him changing, or like things happening around them. Like they did a lot of stuff where like he would grab somebody by the arm and you could see like where the flesh on the arm like squished, like where you normally have your hand.
Sure.
So like you could see these things. It was very, interesting. Yeah. Like the visual effect part of it, I thought worked for me in that movie for the time.
Right. For the time. And then you got this movie, which was more of a direct to video.
Yes.
Which kind of, because of that, you cut costs on a lot of the special effects.
Yeah.
And it shows in this movie.
Yeah.
It really does. And sometimes it's laughable, and sometimes it's like, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just there to move the plot along.
It was nothing that was like groundbreaking as far as visual stuff goes.
Not really. No. Sometimes it's laughable. Let's be honest.
A lot of times it's laughable.
Well, sometimes I don't want to give a lot of it is. It is if you're watching it in a laughable way. But this movie does star Christian Slater. I guess it doesn't really star Christian Slater. He's not really the star. Star is more of Peter Facinelli, would you say?
Yeah.
as Frank Turner,
Frank Turner.
Coach.
Coach.
And then Lori Regan, who is a very Canadian actress. Name a show the last 20 years she's probably been on it. Mad Men, CSI, as a guest star. Recently, we saw her on Legends of Tomorrow. She played it was the fairy godmother when she was introduced, and was
when they were in the Salem.
Where they were in the Salem witch trials.
Yeah.
And
she was Agatha in the Minority Report.
Yes, well, that was the TV show.
Yeah,
the failed TV show. Yeah, which you preferred that a little bit more than me, I would say.
I did. Yeah.
But and then some other kind of Canadian. This is a very Canadian cast, you would say, right?
Yeah, very Canadian. You can tell it's filmed in Toronto or somewhere.
Yeah, it's supposed to be set in Seattle, but it's Toronto.
Yeah, they do that. I think that ends up being picked as a venue for a lot of stuff, just because how close they look, and that way you don't have to be we're in this town, and it looks nothing alike. Director
Claudio Fay, who directed a lot of the sniper movies, a lot of like sniper sequels. Okay. But I want to point out, most importantly, that this was produced by David Lancaster, who also later went on to produce actually better films than this, Whiplash and Nightcrawler.
Really?
Yeah, which he was nominated for an Academy Award for Whiplash. So there you go. So someone has to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So there's that. Do we have a plot synopsis for this movie?
Yes, we've managed to cobble one together.
Yeah, and by the way, you can either rent this movie on Crackle, which is where you can find anything that's really basic, kind of just in the background kind of entertainment. Mm-hmm. Seriously, that's what Crackle is, I swear.
Yeah.
It's just this kind of bland, kind of in the middle of the road entertainment.
Yeah.
Or you can rent it for $2.99.
Crackle has, you take what you get.
Yeah,
it's free. And,
yes, it's free, right? There's some stuff on Crackle.
And take what you want out of these movies too.
Yes, correct.
It's part of what we emphasize over and over, is that just take the bright moments out of it.
Yeah, but crackle it up if you want. Or Hershey Special Dark Chocolate, whatever you want.
Mr. Good Bar.
Mr. Good Bar. The streaming service, Mr. Good Bar. Go ahead.
In Seattle, after the mysterious death of scientist Dr. Devlin Villers.
Who?
The redhead guy at the beginning. Detective Frank Turner and his partner, Detective Lisa Martinez, are assigned to protect Devon's colleague, Dr. Maggie Dalton. Lisa is killed while protecting Maggie, and Frank presses her to tell him what is happening. She discloses that a veteran soldier named Michael Griffin was submitted to an experiment with the objective of creating the ultimate national security weapon, an undetectable soldier. The project, by the way, is called Silent Night.
With a K.
Night with a K.
Yeah. Nice.
However, the experiment failed with horrible side effects due to the damage to the cells caused by the radiation. Michael is chasing Maggie to get the necessary buffer to survive.
There you go. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much the movie.
Yeah, it's pretty much the movie.
We could just eat pretzels from now on.
Yeah, we could eat pretzels.
We could.
I did stop to make pretzels part of the way through.
Well, hey, it is how it goes.
I think that, this is missing parts of it, I think.
There are.
Yeah, there are parts you have this whole... I think this movie is different in the fact that you have this whole, government, conspiracy aspect to it.
As opposed to the first one, which I didn't remember thinking it was more of a government conspiracy thing. I thought it was more...
No, there was some government stuff, but not like this, where it was the government was the bad guys.
When did that movie come out, by the way? Because this movie feels very post 9/11, very when they're talking, they're but it's the Patriot Act. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very bland dialogue that throws the Patriot Act at you all the time.
Oh yeah.
And you're thanks, I guess. But that's what happened back in the day. That we were kind of Patriot Act. Someone would say that, and you'd be like, well, I guess so.
Fine, I'll spread them.
Fine. Fine. I didn't mean to check out that library book.
Halloween came out in 2000.
So yeah, I mean, that's the 6. So you're right. Like 20.
But like think about like Dracula 2000, all these things where it had this like we want to be gritty and edgy, like feel of stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it just seems so weird. Again, it's just such a weird time for cinema.
Yeah.
After that, when was it allowed after 9/11 to like kind of just go through it again and go through the motions? So who knows? So, what I'm amazed about this? I mean, I'm not really amazed by this because this was kind of there is now a more of a renaissance of Christian Slater, especially with Mr. Robot.
Yeah,
being more in kind of the limelight, you would say.
Yeah.
Around this time, Christian Slater wasn't really part of people were talking about. There was a movie called I don't know what movie it is. I can't think of it, but go ahead. He's not really in this that much, but kudos that they got him, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
for a direct-to-video.
Well, so he was in, he'd been in Very Bad Things at the end of the 90s. But
there's this like string of like not like hitting a lot of misses.
Oh yeah,
during that time.
Yeah, Very Bad Things, and he was like in The Contender.
The Contender is what I'm talking about. That's probably the last real good movie he was in for a while. He really gives a really good performance if you go back and watch that movie.
Well, he was in 3,000 Miles to Graceland.
Okay.
And played himself. Like, he was in Wind Talkers. He was in a bunch of stuff where he showed up. So, like, at least he was staying kind of in there, but, like, his everything kind of starts to die down.
Yeah, it really does.
Like, in a few years after that, like, it's like bit parts here and there.
Right, and it doesn't really pick up till, like, My Worst Enemy with that show, and then he started kind of getting more into, like, Robot Chicken, started making fun of himself a little bit more.
Yeah, so like in 2008.
Right, and then you had Mr. Robot and Breaking In, which was another show that I enjoyed. That you didn't remember that show?
Which
with
one?
Steve Zahn, where they were like brothers. Do you remember that show?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After a while, it was kind of like...
I super hated that.
Yeah.
Super hated that. Oh my God, I hated it so much.
I liked the concept of it, but I hated how they were going around doing it. Yeah. You hated it. But then really... what really got him going was like, let's be honest, was Mr. Robot, right? Kind of like brought him back. So to say kudos that they got him, I mean, he was kind of needing work at the time.
Yeah.
He wasn't like, I think he had a little tax scandal too going on.
Did he?
There's something that was going on that maybe shrunk him down a little bit.
I don't know.
Yeah, or something. I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, at this point, Christian Slater, this isn't the high part of his career, right?
No.
If you're going to be like, loved you in Hollow Man 2, I doubt he'll be like, thanks.
Yeah, and it's, like, I mean, obviously he doesn't, like, show up much in the movie. You see him in, like, 2 different scenes.
Uh-huh. Well, you don't, you see him physically in two different scenes.
But for the most part, he's just doing like voiceover work.
For the most part, yeah.
He's got a good distinctive voice.
And he had been doing voiceover work with Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, stuff like that. So it's not like he was not.
Well, but here's the thing too. Like, I feel like he was trying to not sound like himself.
Yes, there was a lot of times where I'm like, is that him?
Yes. Because, okay, so normally, you have his whole greetings and salutations kind of...
Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
Kind of
and
off.
You hear him now, and you hear a little bit of that,
but
you realize it's not. But, like, when you don't see him, and he'd be like, you're gonna do this.
Yeah,
and I was like, what? Like, you would just lose some of that? And that kind of bummed me out, because I was thinking, at least you got his voice, but if it doesn't even sound like him...
But if it doesn't sound like him, like, what's the point? Yeah. He is kind of phoning it in a little bit through the voiceover work. There are moments where I'm like, he gets to ham it up a little bit and have a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
And that's more when we can almost see the character a little bit more.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
where it almost becomes Jack Torrance in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I'm like, well, at least you're going for it. Like, here's the thing with his performance. Not the greatest performance in the world, let's be honest. It's Hollow Man 2, direct to video.
Yes.
But it's probably one of the better ones of the movie. And at least he was like, you know what? At the end, go broke or go home.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at least he like went for it.
And can I will say to his credit too, that when he was on screen, both times, he was shirtless. but no,
so there you go.
No, but he obviously was like at the point where he was getting into shape.
Yeah, that's true.
And whatever, because like
he's a soldier, like, right?
Yeah,
so
it looks like he was taking care of himself. He filled out from like his skinnier, like sometimes you were like, "Wow, are you okay?" kind of days. Like he was, you could tell like he was starting to take better care, and like I was happy about that. This movie's just so odd. Mm-hmm. Because, okay, so a lot of times in movies like this where you realize, oh my God, there's some sort of government conspiracy, you're looking at, he's like a soldier who's had to do bad things and the government is the bad guy and he's really just trying to get them to confess or trying to escape them or whatever. Like, you get that moment where you're like, oh, you're not the bad guy. The government is the bad guy. But for this movie, you get this weird double whammy where the government is the bad guy, but also he's the bad guy. So
a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, heroin, cocaine back in the late 90s.
Yeah.
It says on May 24th, 2005, Slater was arrested in Manhattan.
Okay.
After he allegedly groped a woman on the street. Mm-hmm. Slater was charged with third-degree sexual abuse. It was held at the 19th precinct in Manhattan, and the charges were dropped from lack of evidence. Slater kept up trouble for about 6 months. So he just was not, doing too great at that moment.
Yeah.
So it's not like this movie came along, which was 2006.
Yeah.
Well,
and maybe that was part of when he starts getting into like, getting off of some things.
Yes. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's not like he doesn't do charity work.
Yeah.
For,
yeah.
The Nelson Mandela charity or for AIDS. I mean, he's involved in that too as well. So, you take the good, you take the bad. So, Hollow Man 2 was a very weird movie. This is one of those movies that like, you're never going to watch this movie again. If you experience this, you're going to experience this once and you're never going to like, it's just nothing's going to bring you back to it.
No, even if this was like a background movie thing, I wouldn't replay.
I wouldn't even like. It's not like I wouldn't give it time of day. Again, not a bad movie, but it's nothing to come back to.
Yeah.
Right. The performance of Peter, I can't pronounce his name.
I don't know.
Fontanelli, whatever. Well, what's his character's name?
Frank Turner.
Hooch. Okay. I just wanted to say Hooch when you said Turner. Just wanted to call you Hooch.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's talk about him for a while because like this, like he's kind of that where it comes from is kind of like that second generation like Christian Slater. Do you know what I mean? Where he comes from like not that he's the equivalent of Christian Slater, but he comes from that next wave of actors that think that they can be. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like I just don't think he's that wonderful of an actor. A lot of times I don't prefer him too much. He's just kind of like there to fill up space.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times, like the last thing we saw him in was Supergirl season 1.
Yeah.
And he's really just there. And that's how I feel in this movie. He's just there, right?
Yeah.
He's just there to kind of breathe and give, to have someone like, I find it hard to believe that this is his character. You know what I mean? I find it more believable that Christian Slater's like a soldier than he's a detective with the government. Do you know what I mean?
He's not with the government.
Or not the government, just the police.
The police.
Yeah, that's what I'm at.
Yeah.
I just find it really hard to believe that.
He just like,
Like he's not suave enough for me.
Yeah, he's not like he's okay playing the like occasional sleazy bad guy like in Supergirl when he's Max Lord.
He has some moments, yeah.
Like he has, but he doesn't have to be on screen the whole time.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. He was like on the hell was that called? But he was in Damages. He was in Nurse Jackie.
But Season of Damages was he in? See, it's just forgettable.
Yeah,
to me.
But you know, he's got like that kind of stuff under his belt. Like I think he's good with. I wouldn't necessarily say he was strong enough to carry the movie.
Yeah, correct. That's what I'm saying. Look, I think he's okay.
Yeah,
I just don't think he's the right person for the lead.
Right.
I think why did we not switch those two with him and Christian Slater, and put Christian Slater in more of the scenes?
Maybe Christian Slater couldn't be on the screen that much.
And
so like you just voice over elsewhere.
Maybe through the troubles he was having at the time. Yeah. Perhaps, and maybe that is so. So yeah, I didn't even think of that, but I don't know. There's just something. But do you know what I mean? Like I feel like maybe we should have switched those people.
I don't think I think he would be fine if they gave him
more to
like a partner. Like his partner,
they give him a partner, they kill her off.
Yeah, but like if the two of them are together, maybe.
By the way, he didn't cry once when his partner died.
Yeah, he did.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
He had no remorse.
Yeah, he did.
Oh no, he didn't. He just went right on with.
He's freaking out. Plus, but then he had to save that doctor gal.
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. Like, he has to save the sexy doctor.
Sexy doctor.
Yeah, what in that time
with that pixie cut?
With that pixie cut, that was the look back in the day.
Oh my god, that's so depressing.
I know. That's what I'm saying. This movie's depressing.
I'm surprised they didn't get caught when she was asking to speak to people's managers more often. Yeah. You know, like I think it could have been
played by Kate Gosselin, right?
Yeah, it wasn't quite Kate Gosselin.
You're right.
It was just pixie cutish. I think that like it could have been stronger if they had more like another partner to do partner work. You know, and maybe the partner dies later on, but like at the beginning it was kind of like so odd, I get it.
Why have this character?
Yeah, I don't think because I definitely don't think Maggie was strong enough. The doctor was not strong enough to keep it going. Like she was kind of got the, you know, gave us some exposition and got us some plot stuff. Gave us some
let me tell you, the better scenes are when she's with Christian Slater.
Yes,
is when she is shining the best in this movie.
Yeah,
because I was just going to say let's talk about her for a moment, but like really, I mean, we just kind of did.
Yeah,
like her moments are with Christian Slater.
Yeah, and honestly, like I wanted to. There were things I think that also could have made the interaction between Christian Slater and Turner better.
Which,
like, so like I was saying earlier, where you know, in a lot of these kind of movies where you see, oh my god, the government's the bad guy, and so your Invisible Man or assassin, whatever, is the less bad guy, and maybe he gets away, or like he, you know, isn't the bad guy at all, and you know, all is set right at the end.
But he's killing everyone from the beginning, so obviously he's the bad guy.
Because what?
Because he's killing everyone.
With the redhead guy?
No, I'm just talking about Christian Slater's character. He's killing everyone
at the beginning.
Yes, he kills that one guy, the other doctor.
Yes, but he's part of the government setup,
right? But why are you just killing all these people?
Because he's trained as an assassin.
Okay, well, whatever. I don't know. I don't prefer this.
Well, if it's part of the government thing, then you're just meant to understand that like everybody connected with it is bad.
Right.
So, but what I'm saying is like they do something I think is okay. The only thing that like salvages that I'm like, oh, you are still a bad guy. Like because it just feels like we got too many irons in the fire with who the bad guy is.
Yeah.
The one thing that was kind of interesting was the turn they took was they were like, here was some government people who got killed, right? Some government bad guys. And then they say, Now here was just like random people who were getting killed, like in the Northwest.
See, that's where I'm like,
well, because, and he says, he has this line where he says, I see people and I see how they are when no one else is watching, and, know that there's some people who have to be put down or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so he must have, like, he was killing bad people, but then when he saw people who, we would not necessarily consider bad, but he sees them doing bad things, and so he's just basically cleaning people off the board.
Great.
And so it's like, okay, so he's kind of like a vigilante.
No.
And so I get where they were going with that, but I think that was kind of their
You mean
emphasis
more of a
about,
dark man?
Yeah, kind of. It was kind of their way of almost, it was almost more relatable than like when Kevin Bacon was just like, I can do anything I want because I don't have to look at myself in the mirror. Christian Slater's like, it was really easy for me to kill this way. And so now I'm killing everybody who I deem to be bad. Yeah. Whether
I can get away with it. No one can see me.
Yeah, whether he's like, he almost thinks he's doing a good thing, even though he's not.
Right.
And that's like the only real thing that makes that character and like the setup interesting to me is I wanted them to
when you say it like that, yeah. When you say it like that, I agree with you.
Yeah, like, but I think the problem is it's too divided. Like, you have too
much of them. The government then comes in. And,
yeah, most of it you're running from the government. You don't focus on this. He's going after, jaywalkers. Right,
there's like this weird. Well, there's the really weird like triple thing where it's like they're chasing him, the government's chasing them, and chasing Christian Slater all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just really odd. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Where it should be a cat and mouse between like Turner Hooch and the Doctor and Christian Slater.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, you know what I mean? Like that seems like a little less B plot. And instead you're kind of making that more of an A plot.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that's
they didn't, it's just like they didn't divide things well. But I think there were script problems.
That you have exposition in the middle of the movie, which kind of then like, which I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that's cheap when they do it in the middle of the movie.
Is that when they were like...
Yeah, which is like 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, even then I wouldn't have thought it was so bad, but like then I'm talking about the exposition where she gets a random text and he's like, what's that from?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this guy texts me at random for months. And he finally gave me an address today.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Like, you think maybe you would have said something to him because you're on the run from like, from the big bad government?
That's when they find the other invisible man who ran out of, like, was dying.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it feels like they were like, well, we got to write this one in.
Yeah.
And kind of tack that in there.
It just felt so like...
It's so rushed.
It feels like there were script problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it was... You get to the point where a lot of it was rushed as far as introducing characters and plot points in the middle of the movie. But we definitely had time at the beginning of the movie when Turner
but we don't do it.
Turner's talking to Dr. Dalton, and he's like, is there anybody else I should know about in your house? And she goes, just my cat, so-and-so. And he goes, huh, I'm more of a dog person. And so then they're like looking around and she turns off her sound machine and he goes, I always preferred Sound of the Rainforest more. And I'm like, why are you talking about any of this?
I know. That's what I mean.
It was just
the dialogue is very like, when you could have filled that up and we could have been on our way by now.
Yeah. And her sister comes over and like, granted, like the sister becomes
from iZombie.
Yeah. Becomes a plot point later.
Yes,
but it's pointless. So the beginning, it's
like pointless because you're like, using that
you ditched
as
me
leverage
instead of this concert, and I'm like, we don't care about any of this because we don't know the concert, we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
She's naming people. We'll talk to Janie about going. I did go with Janie, and it was like, what are you talking? Like, it was so weird. Like,
for a while I didn't know who she was until like she was like at the end when I was like, oh yeah, that was her sister.
Yeah.
I was thinking, and
he randomly, Christian Slater finds her sister somehow.
Right, just finds her.
Yeah, it's very
flipping through the reverse phone book.
It feels like they were adding way too much at the beginning, and then we're looking at it and went, oh shit, this is going to be 4 hours long. Like, hurry it up. And still started like trimming parts out or like condensing. And so then it's like all off kilter.
So speaking of trimming stuff out, let's talk about the special effects, because a lot of the special effects from the first movie aren't necessarily the same that are carried over into this movie.
No.
There are about 200 some odd special effects in this movie. 80 of those are getting rid of wires out of the shots. Because there was a lot of like items that were just floating in the air.
Yeah.
That like Christian Slater
It was like shit that they did in
like
like
a gun.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where like a gun just is like awkwardly floating and like pointing.
And I'm sorry, like your hand doesn't float like that. If you have a gun, usually it's kind of like stationary. It's not going all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, like a one-man shooter game.
Or it emphasizes like, you know, when you're using it to emphasize things.
You point with it, you know, or I mean, I don't know. I've never really used it.
It's just like hovering like back and forth.
Like in a television show or a movie, I've seen people use a gun to get their point across.
You see cartoons do it in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Right. It's just like boom, boom. Same with the shovel at the end. Same with like a bunch of stupid stuff. Really, it just makes... I realize that they have a small budget.
Yes.
They're doing the best that they can. But when someone gets carried away from where they're standing, where Christian Slater like takes them away, and they're like, whoa, it's the weirdest fucking thing.
But it, like most times, it's not them.
But it's like but the people around them are like, well, that just person's drunk. Like that's what it looks like.
Yeah. So most of them getting pulled around or moved or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some of that was actually like green screen effect in the original one, like where they were pulling them, because people didn't just like move like that.
But that has to be like wires, like pointing.
Sometimes there's wires in this one. Sometimes there's a few of those that are actual wire movements. The actors moving, but themselves. A lot of it. I'd say the bulk of it is pantomime,
right?
And the worst one at it is the gal who plays Dr. Dalton, because she always goes, "Oh God, help!" Like where she's being dragged away by her arm, right? And if somebody's pulling you by your arm, it's probably down and back a little bit, whatever. She always puts her elbow up in the air. And I'm like, unless Christian Slater is like 7 feet tall, he does not have you held like that. It just, I'm like, okay. But most people go, whoa, and get dragged off, or like they do whatever. And you can just clearly see that they've thrown themselves into something. At the beginning, like the redhead guy who does like he's getting shoved around the dance floor where he looks like he's drunk.
That's more believable to me.
Yes, I think he does. I think that guy does a good job.
I think that guy probably has done like physical work.
Yeah, and other people, like, I don't want to say like people do terrible. Like they do okay. Okay. Obviously, like they've probably practiced at it and done a few things to like. Or they've been coached through it, but
it's the most laughable part of this movie. Besides some of the dialogue, you can laugh at it.
Yes, but
it's to the point where you cannot laugh about it enough to warrant a second viewing. No, you know what I mean? No. This isn't like a cult classic that you can make fun of over and over again.
Right. I agree.
It just is not there. There's nothing about it.
I will say, I do. Like there's some other parts of the visual effects that I think are okay. Like there is one scene. Oh, the ones that suck, I also think are like, so, they always had, in the first movie, they had, Kevin Bacon like in a hoodie, and a couple times they had him without the hoodie to where you can see, but it was a green screen effect. He's wearing a green screen in there. In this movie, they have a hoodie like on a wire thing, and so it turns its head and it's like robotically like turning, and like the arms look all robotic because it's just on wire basically. But there is a cool one. So like they have Christian Slater's characters wearing like some sort of a nylon mask, and so the eyes are open on it. But he's got the rest of the doctor's gear and a hoodie he's wearing. So
except there's a little blooper of that when she sprays him in the eyes.
Yeah,
there's no paint there.
Yeah,
I'm like, because she uses that paint.
It's like oil or whatever it is.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But yeah, you can see through the eye holes, when he's turned sideways, you can see through it. So that they did have some green screen work in there, which is good. I'm glad they did some stuff. But other than that, the stuff that they did in the first one where Christian Slater or Kevin Bacon would splash water on his face, he would do some stuff like that. Right. They did it way better in the first one, I think, because Kevin Bacon was actually there splashing it. I think on this one, I think they were just trying to digitally animate it because there was, you could tell it was Kevin Bacon before. It didn't look like Christian Slater now.
Didn't sound like it either. But.
Yeah. There's a couple weird things like one time, Christian Slater gets hit by gets hit by a car and he's bleeding.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah, and you can kind of see part of the circulatory system as things are happening, which I was like, okay, that's interesting. But one thing I did, I was thinking wow, that's a cool effect. I would like to see more of that. Until they do it again. He's in a general's office or whatever, and this general stabs him with a pen. Where he stabs him with the pen, you see a little bit of ink from that. And I'm like, oh, cool. The ink is, around the wound so you can see where the ink is.
Yeah.
But then it kept circulating and circulating. And his whole circulatory system was black from ink. And I was like, well, that's stupid. Why is there that much ink in his body?
No, there shouldn't be.
And then it just faded away. And I was like, so what?
There's two things I do want to talk about before we get to our 5 questions that we haven't talked about yet. What is the meta joke that happens with the guy hiding out flyers?
Oh, God.
That gets knocked down by Christian Slater, and he says something about don't eat bacon.
This is bacon is murder.
Yeah, bacon is murder, which is obviously a reference to Kevin Bacon. And the fact that a lot of night vision was used, or a lot of night vision to get
that green night vision that was on handy cams back in the day.
Handy cams back in the day. There was a teenage couple that was next door to the house of the doctor.
Yeah.
That were creating a sexy video, and which was really pointless, by the way, that scene.
Yeah, I don't even know why he was across the street in this person's house.
Right. Why? You're invisible. You don't need to go across the street.
Yeah.
You just need to go outside their window. No one's going to see you.
And to the point where he's not in their yard. He's in somebody's bedroom.
Yes.
It was so weird.
She's like, I can see them.
Yeah.
They can see my boobs. Yeah. And then later on in the shopping scenes.
Yeah.
Turner Hooch takes out a camera and that's how I find Christian Slater's character.
Well, in the original one, it was the heat. It was a spectral heat vision,
right? Which
was cool. This one with the night vision to me is weird and kind of pointless.
Not so cool.
Yeah,
let's put it that way. Let's do our 5 questions.
Okay, what do you think was the best part of this movie?
I'm going to tell you this. We have watched stuff that is direct-to-video before. We don't do a lot of it, but this is a direct-to-video. This also doesn't. There's been times where we do direct-to-video, and it looks like it's supposed to be a television pilot. You know what I mean? This doesn't feel like it was supposed to be, and so for that, I'm kind of grateful for.
Yes,
that we weren't it didn't feel like it was broken up into. This was supposed to be episode 1. This was supposed to be episode 2. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There was that time when we watched Cruel Intentions 2, which you could tell was kind of supposed to be
episodic,
the pilot and episodic. This didn't feel like that. At least it had that flow of a movie.
Yes.
Not that well, but it did have that. Christian Slater, when he was towards the end, when he was acting kind of crazy, it was all
yes,
two for it. was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
Which, this movie doesn't have a lot going for it, but it doesn't have a lot that's against it as well. It's just there.
Yes.
And it's not anything I would recommend seeking out.
Right.
At least once. If you're curious, watch it.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
You yourself? I mean, I hate to see that on a down note, but it's like, look, these performances are fine.
Yeah.
And up to Christian Slater's part towards the end, it's probably the best acted.
Yes.
Other than that, it's kind of, nice Canadian.
Yes. I think the best part was the hour 30-minute runtime. I'm just kidding.
You know what I mean? Like, we watch this and it feels very episodic sometimes with these.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
So I think that my favorite part of this was from it was like the last, I don't know how many minutes that was, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So where he's kidnapped her to give him the antidote or whatever it is. He makes her inject herself and then him with the rest of the cure. And then you find out that Turner
Hooch
has turned himself invisible too.
Yeah.
And then we have like the invisible man off.
I'm okay with that. The man off.
I thought that was fun. Now, like, it could have been better
related to Dinah Man off.
Yes, the leader of the pack.
Yes.
It could have been better animated, I think, a little bit. But I love the concept of it.
Me too.
And especially like when he starts coming back and you realize, oh, he's like, what the hell happened? And she's like, I gave you rat poison. And so she's poisoned herself too.
Yeah.
And they're fighting through all of that. Like, that whole sequence I thought was cool. And I'm like, all right, like, I can get behind what's happening from that point, like, forward. It just seemed like there's a lot of unnecessary stuff before that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was cool. Like, and if they could have done more with that throughout the movie, it'd have been awesome.
Yeah.
And I get where they were going with some of the stuff happening in the script. It just felt like they had too many focuses and didn't like successfully resolve like some of it. Yeah. And like, it just felt like they were all over the board a little bit. So, but that last like 15 minutes, probably the best part of the movie.
I agree with you on that. Like, if you were going to watch it, if you're going to say what's the most action packed part of that leaves you kind of like hanging on to something, it is the last part of the movie.
Oh yeah, very much.
But like you said, you have to wait an hour and 20 minutes to even get there.
Yeah.
So it's like,
would you reboot, continue, or cancel?
Based on this movie, no. I'm done.
Cancel?
Yeah. But like, I am interested in the Elizabeth Moss, like, Invisible Man. It just seems to be like they never do it correctly enough for me to like figure it out. But it seems like this seems to be like more of a horror movie that with like a social conscience to it.
It was
with like
supposed
an abusive husband kind of thing.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to be part of the dark universe, like the Universal dark like monster movie universe.
Okay.
Whatever that was called, the Monsterverse, where it was going to have the Invisible Man was going to be played by Johnny Depp.
Oh, okay.
And so it was supposed to be part of that, but after Mummy with Tom Cruise flopped, they broke all those apart, and like some of those things they were like, well, we already in like the opening stages and like whatever. So they reworked the script a little bit, so it was not connected in the same way, and focused more on like, like abuse and things like that, and like overcoming abuse. Right. So that's more of where the themes are with that now.
Oh.
So yeah, it was supposed to be part of that, but they retooled it.
But you know what I mean? Like, it seems like they never give it justice.
Yeah.
Like these kind of invisible movies. Because it's like, what can you do with it? Oh, I can go into the women's locker room. Whoa.
Like it just seems Invisible Kid or whatever it is.
Yeah, it just seems very like either that juvenile or it just seems like too dark or too like convoluted like this movie.
I was originally going to suggest to hold off on this and do all these invisible movies and like sequels around Halloween time, thinking like, well, that'd be different. But like you have Hollow Man 2 is a very clear sequel.
Yeah.
Invisible Kid does not have one.
Okay.
Neither does Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
But Darkman too. Isn't that more isn't he
He's
invisible?
not invisible.
Oh, he's not? I
No.
thought he was invisible in that.
No, he just is wrapped up in bandages.
Oh, he's just wrapped up in bandages.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking.
There is and even like the original like Universal Invisible Man stuff is really tenuous. Like, so there's the Invisible Man Returns, which is supposed to be like the sequel, but it's not Claude Rains' character anymore.
Oh.
And then there's the Invisible Woman, which some people say is like the third in the series, but it's actually kind of more of a restart. Yeah, like so it's like its own new thing, but it's like a comedy instead of the horror piece of it. And then they spun off into, or had a sequel called Invisible Agent, which I think came out in like 41 or 42.
Yeah.
And it was more of like a U.S. military propaganda film than whatever. So like it gets used in weird ways. Like it wasn't one of the main like 3 or 4, who.
Yeah, I'm interested in the Elizabeth Moss movie, but not enough for me to go to the movie theater for it.
Yeah. I mean, like, to me, like, when you get the invisible stuff, you kind of know what's going to happen with some of it. You're going to see couch cushions sink in. You're going to see footprints on carpet. You're going to see, eventually, they're going to get paint or, like, water thrown on them and see them briefly.
Like that. Yeah.
A sheet thrown over
So,
them.
what's your answer to the question?
Reboot, continue, or cancel?
Yeah, because you never really gave me an answer.
That's true, I didn't.
You just went on.
I kind of like the concept of this in some way. I would almost like to reboot it, but as something where like you focused on more of like Silent Night, and have it be where maybe it's not just Invisible Man, maybe it was more different kinds of Universal monsters or whatever, but have it almost be like a monster squad, if you will. But like have the Invisible Man be one of those, and something like that. They used to have the Howling Commandos, or like the whatever that monster squad was, like in the comic books, like something interesting like that.
What's our next question?
Does this stand on its own?
I think it does. There's a lot, like I said, I've never seen the first movie. Any questions I have, really the doctor kind of answers them for me.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions I have about the kind of government aspect, he kind of answers them for me through his superiors, like Turner does.
Yeah.
So really, I think it does stand on its own.
Yeah. As far
Having
as
said that, it should, because I think it should rely on. I think it should be continuous. I've never seen the first one, but let's have some kind of fluidity.
Yeah, it doesn't. It stands on its own without relying on the first one too much. You hear like a mention.
Yeah, if you hear mention,
but that's it, and that's
not warrant enough to go, what does it mean?
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, it's okay, but the weird thing is, it almost doesn't stand on its own by itself, like nothing to do with like the first movie, or that you needed the first movie.
I don't even think it stands on itself.
It's just missing
by
some
itself.
plot stuff. Yeah. That's the unfortunate part with that. I think some parts do, and they go back and I think they try to fill in the gaps, but they fill them too late. So, does this make you want to watch the first one?
No.
Yeah.
No. Like I said, it makes me want to watch Invisible Man, that movie that came out, more than the first movie, just because I'm interested in that. More interested in that than Hollow Man 2.
Yep.
With Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon was going through a weird thing too back in the day. It's just odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I'm with you there. And then sum up your experience in 2 words.
Hollow plot.
Hollow
Plot. Because we should have said hollow plot. Here's what you should be, but we didn't. And we got something. We got dialogue that's very flat. Dialogue that you pointed out that's very much could have moved the plot along a lot quicker, but instead it was like, oh, I like white noise as well. Helps me sleep. Are you a dog person What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff when they talk has nothing to do with anything. I'm like, come on and move the plot along, would you? I'm sick of ya. Don't make me disappear. All right.
So I think for mine, I would say clear issues. So like there are clearly some issues with this.
You can see them.
Yes. No, I mean I
hiding.
think there's some issues here enough that it can be kind of problematic. Do I think that there are some like potentials to have some good things happening there? I do. Like I think there was potential in that script and nuggets they should have built on better. And other stuff they should have left off.
Do you think the first one should have warranted a sequel? Like, is there any reason why the sequel even exists? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I would have liked... I mean, maybe he could have built on that universe a little bit more.
But there's nothing really that says that there was necessarily a reason to. And it's 6 years later. Why are we like...
Yeah.
You know, drumming up the last remnants of Hollow Man.
Right.
You know, through the direct-to-DVDs that you get at Walmart with a 2-pack. I mean, that's pretty much what this is.
Yes.
I mean, the reason why you probably have, listeners, is you probably have Hollow Man 2, it's probably because you got it with Hollow Man from Walmart, okay? I mean, it's true. And you got it for like $5, and you're like, sweet, 2 movies in one. Boom!
And then you were like, the other one's Hollow Man 2.
This is Hollow Man 2. Oh, okay. But... watch it if you want. Just do it. You know, like,
yes.
If you have time, watch something. Make your own assumptions. We're just two idiots that have a podcast. We say it like it is, I guess. But no, honestly, and if you want to watch it on Crackle or rent it, I suggest don't watch it. But that's just me. You say probably.
If you enjoyed the first one, maybe
watch it with caution.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's really like I wouldn't go out of your way.
Yeah.
If you have a list of stuff, just put it at the bottom.
Yeah. Somewhere. Next week, who knows what we're gonna bring?
Who knows?
We're just we're invisible right now, so who knows, folks? But remember, the sequel is king.